Near a beautiful forest in the village of Vishnupur, there lived a boy named Raghav. He was hardworking, honest, and always gave his all in everything he did. But one thing constantly troubled Raghav: his habit of comparing himself to others. Whenever he saw Karan, the brilliant classmate who always topped the class, Raghav would quietly think, "If only I were as smart as him." When he saw Sidar, the wealthy neighbor living in a grand house, he would wish, "If only I had as much money as him." Even when he saw someone running swiftly in the fields, Raghav would sadly muse, "If only I could run like that." These comparisons didn't make Raghav better. Instead, they slowly eroded his confidence. He lost interest in studying and no longer felt excited about his daily tasks. Every time he saw someone better than him, his heart grew heavy with sadness and a sense of failure. He began to believe that no matter how hard he tried, he could never measure up to others. This thought gradually pulled Raghav into a spiral of despair, making his life feel increasingly dull and hopeless. The weight of this discouragement pressed heavily on Raghav's young shoulders. He felt he was losing himself. No matter how hard he worked, he always saw himself as inferior. Each time he tried, he'd look at others and feel his efforts were worthless. Slowly, his confidence withered and his belief in himself faded. Then one day, a renowned sage visited Vishnupur. People said this sage possessed deep wisdom and often helped others find a brighter path in life. Hearing this, a faint spark of hope flickered in Raghav's heart. He decided to meet the sage, carrying the burden of his troubled thoughts. Before the kind sage, Raghav bowed and said, "Gurudev, I try my hardest, but whenever I see someone better, richer, or faster feel sad. I feel I'll never be as good as them. How can I escape this feeling?" The sage smiled gently and said little. He simply replied, "Tomorrow morning, go to the oldest tree in the village. There you'll find the answer you seek." The brief, mysterious response puzzled Raghav. Yet a part of him believed the sage's words held profound meaning. The next morning, as the sun rose, Raghav stood beneath the village's largest ancient tree. Dew still clung to the leaves, and the forest's crisp air calmed his heart. Waiting under the thick canopy, he saw the sage's familiar figure approaching, with the same serene smile on his gentle face. The sage pointed to the lush forest and asked, "Look around. What do you see?" Raghav observed quietly and answered, "Gurudev, I see many kinds of trees. Some are very tall, others short. Some bear heavy fruit, while others have none." The sage nodded, smiling. "What if a mango tree grew envious because it's not as tall as a coconut tree? Or if a coconut tree complained because it doesn't bear sweet fruit like the mango?" Raghav shook his head, surprised. "That would be absurd, Gurudev. Each tree has its own purpose." The sage smiled warmly. "Exactly. And so it is with people. Each person has their own purpose, journey, and strengths. No one is born to be like another. If the forest had only one type of tree, would it still be as beautiful and harmonious?" Raghav's heart stirred. He had never viewed life this way. He always saw himself as lesser, forgetting he was an irreplaceable part of life's tapestry. The sage placed a hand on Raghav's shoulder and said, "Don't let comparisons dim your inner light. The mango tree and the coconut tree both have value, and so do you." The sage's words began to sink into Raghav's heart, though doubts lingered. Seeing this, the sage led him to a small pond near the forest, where clear water reflected the morning sun. They stopped by the pond. Beneath the surface, fish swam freely. On a nearby branch, a small bird chirped, flapping its wings to soar into the sky. The sage pointed to the scene and gently asked, "Look closely. If the fish in the pond complained because it can't fly like the bird, would that be fair?" Raghav shook his head. "No, Gurudev. Fish are born to swim in water, and birds are born to fly in the sky. Each has its own place to thrive." The sage smiled, his eyes twinkling with approval. "So why do you wish to be someone else? Why feel sad for not being as clever, rich, or swift as others? You have abilities as don't. You have your own journey, like the fish has the ocean and the bird the sky." These words pierced the fog in Raghav's mind like a beam of light. He stood silent, then nodded slightly. For the first time in years, he felt a lightness in his heart. He realized that being different wasn't something to mourn. It was what made each person special. The sage placed a hand on Raghav's chest and said, "When you stop comparing, you begin to live as your true self. Only then will you discover the strength already within you." From that meeting by the tree and the pond, Raghav transformed. He no longer looked at others with envy or inferiority. Instead, he learned to look within, at his strengths, his flaws, and the small things he'd never valued before. He recognized his perseverance, care, and sincere heart. He didn't need to be as scholarly as Karen or as wealthy as Sidar to feel worthy. Living true to his abilities and spirit was enough to make his life meaningful. Raghav returned to his studies and work with renewed vigor. He stopped racing silently against others. Instead, he focused on his own progress, slow but steady. And something miraculous happened. Free from the distraction of comparison, his energy and creativity flourished. Years passed, and Raghav built a solid career. From a boy plagued by insecurity, he became a strong man, leading a small, successful, and trusted business. The villagers respected him, not just for his achievements, but for the peace and confidence he radiated. When asked the secret of his success, Raghav would smile and say, "Never compare yourself to others. If a fish tries to fly, it will always feel like a failure, but if it owns its swimming, it can rule the ocean." The sun and moon don't shine at the same time, but each has its moment to dazzle. So do we. Everyone has their own light, if they're patient enough to find and follow it. Through this journey, Raghav became an inspiration for the village, proof that being yourself is the path to true happiness and success. Years later, now a successful man and the pride of the village, Raghav was a mature, grounded figure full of experience. Villagers often sought his advice when feeling lost or discouraged. What made Raghav admired wasn't just his material success, it was the calm, confidence, and positivity he exuded. Once a young man approached Raghav, his face etched with worry. "I feel I'm nothing special," he said. "Some excel in studies, others in speaking or business. I don't know what I'm good at. I always feel inferior." Raghav smiled kindly, his eyes full of empathy. He shared his own story, how, as a young man, he too compared himself to friends, feeling less than in every way. But then, he continued, a meeting with a sage changed his life forever. Raghav spoke of the forest with its varied trees, the mango and coconut, the pond and the bird. Each detail carried clarity and wisdom. He ended with the lesson he'd held dear for years. Don't compare yourself to anyone. If a fish tries to fly, it will live in failure. But if it knows it's born to swim, it can conquer the ocean. Like the sun and moon, each shines in its own time, and no one needs to be another to shine. The young man sat quietly, his eyes gleaming with new hope. Raghav patted his shoulder. You don't need to become someone else. Just be the best version of yourself. Find your strengths, nurture them, live with them, and life will unfold in ways you never imagined. From that day, not just the young man, but the entire village understood. Comparison breeds suffering. Accepting and loving oneself is the start of true happiness and success. Raghav's story didn't end with his personal triumph. The lessons from the sage became his life's compass, and more, they spread to the community around him. From a boy crippled by comparison, Raghav became the village's greatest inspiration. He didn't preach dogma, but shared his honest, relatable journey. From insecurity to confidence, from envy to peace. His heartfelt stories help many recognize their own worth. He often said, success doesn't come from outshining others, but from understanding and growing yourself. Everyone has a different starting point, pace, and path. Walk your own road, and you'll reach your destination. Raghav likened it to this. If the sun tried to shine at night to rival the moon, the sky would lose its beauty. But when each shines in its time, the universe is perfect. These words didn't just comfort, they ignited belief. A girl who cried over not being as pretty as her peers, inspired by Raghav, pursued painting and became a talented artist. A student who nearly quit school for falling behind became a skilled engineer by learning to persevere at his own pace. Raghav knew that only by stopping the race to be someone else could people live as themselves. In that state, they'd uncover the incredible potential within. He never forgot the sage who planted a seed in his heart, and with patience, that seed bloomed into a forest of hope, where hearts once withered by comparison and insecurity found healing. When asked, "How did you succeed?" Raghav would smile gently and say, "I'm not better than anyone. I just learned one thing. Don't compare yourself to anyone. Live true to yourself and you'll see. Your uniqueness is the greatest gift life has given you." Raghav's life was living proof. When you stop comparing, you truly begin to live. He needed no grand titles or lavish praise. What earned him respect was his calm, peace, and wisdom forged from real-life experience. One day, at a village youth gathering, someone asked, "Raghav, if you could give one piece of advice for success and happiness, what would it be?" Raghav smiled, his eyes sparkling with the memory of his journey. "Remember, everyone has their own path. If you keep looking at others' lives, you'll miss the beauty unfolding in your own." He continued with an image everyone could grasp. If a fish spends its days wishing it could fly like a bird, it will never explore the vast ocean it belongs to. Like the sun and moon, no one compares them, because each has its role to shine in its time. The room fell silent, each person seeing themselves in his words. Raghav concluded, "Don't chase someone else's light. Learn to listen to yourself. When you know who you are, your strengths, and live fully in that, success will follow naturally." That day, the young people left with a new feeling. No more rivalry, no more comparison. Only a quiet belief remained. Everyone can shine in their own unique way.